and he lights up a roach. And as soon as he lit up the roach, the doors exploded in. Some 260-pound SWAT guy is laying on top of me. Paco's on the ground on top of the bed. Terry's on the ground. And like that, I go, he set me up.
Terry did?
Yeah. I mean, as I say, I knew in a second we weren't all in the same position, you know, and I can look up to the corner of my eyes and I could just see the fear in Paco's face, you know. I mean, it's just, you know, it happens, that, you know, and so they take us to jail, you know. Oh, then the prosecutor shows up. So they take Paco out of one room. Terry's gone. They take him and, you know, obviously handcuff him and let him go back to home. And the prosecutor comes up the stairs, and I'm sitting in there, and I tell the story. The cops are in there watching a Steven Seagal movie, and they got me handcuffed in there. I go, and they're like, "Oh man," I go, "This guy's not a karate guy." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Like a bullshit. He's a fat pig." I mean, sorry, Steven, I didn't say fat pig, but I want to, you know. But I'm like, he's not a real karate. This is movie stuff. I actually, you know, trained karate. I know these, you know. Again, I know you're with the Ruskies now, and you're living in the Kremlin and all that. Don't want to piss you off. And certainly bigger and stronger than me, I guess. So anyway, but that was what I was doing. I'm busting their ass, right? And I hear someone walking up. They go, "You know who's coming up here?" And I go, "No." And they go, "It's Michael Rosenblum." He goes, and they're shutting off the TV. They're all tightened up. You know, they're like, "Well, you're going to wish you never knew." And he gets in my face, and he does the same thing he did to Terry, obviously. He goes, "Buddy, you're in a lot of trouble. You better talk and talk now." And we're trained. Like, I have nothing to say to you. You got the wrong guy. As I say in the book, I knew they had the right guy. I just wasn't talking, right? Yeah. But I figured I got busted with 80, 90 pounds of weed. What are they going to do to me? Give me 2 or 3 years? I mean, I didn't know they had a racketeering case against me. And so I end up going to jail. And, you know, I spent 3 months in jail waiting to get bond. And, you know, and I get my indictment papers, and I'm in jail one day. And I was friendly. I like talking to the guards more than the prisoners. I mean, they're more like, you know, middle suburban guys like me, you know. Yeah. You know. And the guards used to ask me, "So what's it like?" I go, "Buddy, I need tile in my house too, yeah. And my refrigerator needs to be replaced. I'm just like you. I'm, you know, I got, you know." And I just happen to have, you know, Porsche boats, you know, and waste my money in other places, you know. So they hand me my indictment papers after like 3 months, and Bill, the guard, who I really liked, looks at me. He goes, "I'm reading the indictment papers." They call me out of the cell. They go, "Ken Behr, are you Ken Behr?" I'm thinking, who else could I be? I'm in a cell. And they hand me, and it says, and Bill looks at me. He goes, "You're going to be all right, kid?" And I go, "Yeah, why?" And I'm looking at the papers. He goes, "Kid," he goes, "you're looking at 55 years. I'm like, fuck. And it was almost better that he said that, because I didn't believe. That's unbelievable. You know, if he said, "Hey, you know, you're looking at racketeering in 25, I would have maybe. He goes, "We're putting you on suicide watch tonight." I go, "No need, Bill. No need. I'm all right." And they already knew me. After 3 months, they had pictures of my daughter on the wall, because they go through your mail. They look at all your stuff and everything. And, but so going back, I want to tell you, when I got arrested, here's the story. I drop back a minute. I get handcuffed and I get arrested, and I'm brought in for booking. And the guy that had introduced me to my first wife, my high school friend, Kelly, who'd also, we'd all been friends, all grew up together. He was on the run from a cocaine smuggling trip that him and his uncle had done together. We had brought in a load of weed, me and Kelly and his uncle from Jamaica. His uncle was 65. He flew a load of weed in. I was like, "Dude, I was like, are you crazy?" Imagine that. That's like 18 hours in a plane by himself. He wouldn't even use a co-pilot. I go, "Get a co-pilot, Ralph." He goes, "No, less weight. You know, I don't want anybody with me." So Uncle Ralph had gotten busted and turned in Kelly and his family, turned in his nephews in the bust. But Kelly went on the run. She was on the run for years. They beat the case, believe it or not. But Kelly was on the run. And for cocaine, I guess they probably blamed it all on Kelly because he had run, you know, and gave the rest of his family, you know, because it was all family. It was a family deal. So I look over, and there's Kelly being prosecuted. So Terry had turned in me. Turned out Kelly had brought 1,000 pounds up there behind my back. And they should have paid me. You know, that's my deal. And they were running weed up there. And Kelly was just a mess. You know, he was on the run. He was drugged up. He was running from the cops. You know, it's hard to be on the run for years. You know, I mean, it breaks you down. You got to have a lot of money or not a lot of heart to leave your family, your mother, everybody, you know. And I was like, fuck. Terry turned Kelly in. Oh, man. Because at this time, I'm still thinking I'm looking at 100 pounds, you know. And I know Kelly's in big trouble. He's on the run from the feds for cocaine smuggling. And in the end, when I, so I get through all that. So I'll go back to when I went to finally bonded out, the cops pull me aside and they go, listen, here's your deal. We're charging you, you're being charged with RICO. I go, right. And they go, we're going to hit you with all 25 because, they could work a deal. He goes, here's why. We want Kelly. He's been on the run for years for a cocaine smuggling charge. And we know the history of when you guys used to run drugs together. And Kelly, we went and bought some weed one time in California, and Kelly was going to take to Terry, and he got busted on the highway, and I bonded him out. He had fake IDs, and Gillette got him out. And, I'd done a lot of things together over the years, so they knew that. And they go, we need you to rat, you need to testify against Kelly in court. And I said, I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing, I said, I'll tell you what I can, but I'm not going to get up in court and testify against him. Just not going to do it. I'm going to tell you, you're going to put me on the stand, that I'm not going to pull it off. I just don't have it in me. He's one of my lifelong friends, And they never asked me to testify against him, and they did convict him. He got 10 years.
Do you think that the whole reason that they busted you was to get to him?
No, Terry just wanted. Terry wanted, they wanted me because 17 people had ratted me out in Ohio. I didn't know 17 people in Ohio. I guess, everybody knew who Kenny was. So the whole thing went down. I had 17 people ready to go to court and testify against me. So prior to that, I was sitting in jail, and I was I was not trying to get bond. And the guy next to me, and I tell this story, and the guy next to me had done 15 years in Angola prison in the cell next to me. That's one of the worst. Amnesty International called it one of the worst prisons in the world. It's in Louisiana, and it's on 1,800 acres in the swamps of an old plantation. You ain't getting out. If you get out, it's like Alcatraz. You can land. You're landing in the swamp. Yeah. Nobody ever escapes from there. And he pulled me aside. He actually had me go get a book from the library. He had done 15 years for armed robbery in Louisiana, and was from Ohio. He says, Kenny, I want to talk to you. Come here. I got him this book, A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, which is phenomenal. He couldn't go to the library because he'd done 15 years, got out, came back home to Ohio and did another armed robbery. It proves the system doesn't work. Here's basically a guy that knows nothing what to do after 15 years of being in jail. He's gone back and then did another armed robbery. You're not solving the crime problem like that. So he says, listen to me. You have a little daughter. I go, I do. 1.5, right? I go, yeah. He goes, you know how old my daughter was when I got busted 15, whatever years ago? He goes, 1.5. He goes, you know how many times I saw her in 15 years? Once. He goes, you have to make a decision. You look around here. I know you're keeping your mouth shut. He said, but the mores and values you're clinging to died a lifetime ago. Look around. This isn't about who hasn't ratted. It's who hasn't ratted yet. These guys, he goes, listen to me. He goes, if you can save your life and protect your family and go home and rebuild your life and get out of drug dealing and do what you got to do, you got to do it. He goes, but if you do that, if you snitch, if you rat, and you go back into the business, then you're nothing more than a rat and you deserve everything you're going to get. He goes, you got to make a decision. There's a picture of a little girl hanging on the wall in there. Go in there and decide what you're going to do. And I still kept my mouth shut. My lawyers are telling me, I had 2 lawyers, again, Gillette and another guy, Jack Bradley, and they're like, you're done. They brought me in after, there was a stack of tapes. They got 17 people. You got caught. Normally, if I left Texas, I would never have anything on me. It always happens. If you read all these guys that get busted, they do everything right until the time they get busted. I had the keys to the secret compartment to the truck in my pocket. I had a phone book, a matchbook from the Tex-Mex border here in Brownsville, from the hotel. I had my cell phone, which I had used, and I had records of me being. So even if I could say I had nothing to do with it, he just picked me up an hour ago. They're like, I didn't realize where I was at this point, that I was being set up, but they had me. They had the matchbook, tied to the text border. They had the cell phone tied to me. They had me calling on the cell phone. They had my cell phone records. They had it all.